Welcome to the Workplaces podcast. I'm Tom Bosner, your host, and today I'm speaking with Kate Renner, who's the head of employee experience at Wisr. Now, Wisr just recently won Most Outstanding Practice and Diversity and Inclusion Award for the AFR Best Places to Work, and was also awarded number 2 in the best places to work in the category of banking, superannuation and financial services. So Kate having a significant impact at Wisr, I'm sure, in facilitating some of those amazing awards. And Kate joins me today, I believe, from Sydney. Kate, welcome to the show.
Hi, Tom. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Now, today is... I was talking to you just offline just then. We were talking about how I feel like at the end of, I guess, what the last couple of years has brought for a lot of businesses is a full 360 from, effectively being challenged with their well-being and trying to figure out how to work in a hybrid environment or remote environment into a hybrid environment now. And there's obviously a big focus on employee well-being in general. It's been talked about a lot over the last 6 to 12 months. And now we're out of all this, I guess, sort of out of this pandemic as such. There's this huge focus now on how do we kind of transform ourselves from being maybe in that well-being challenged zone now into looking ahead towards performing well. So getting ourselves performing. And I think a big part of that is getting organizations to perform well in teams. And I think wellbeing has a huge part or a big play in that. So I think given your experience as head of employee experience at Wisr, really interested today to talk a little bit about wellbeing, employee wellbeing, and how we can kind of bring it to life in the organization in its various forms, but also look at how does that link in as well with things like talent attraction, retention and hiring and those types of things. So Kate, enough of me rambling. Given your experience and what you've been working on at Wisr, what do you think are some of the main aspects of wellbeing that employees really want? Because there's a lot out there.
Yeah, definitely. There is so much out there, and well-being can be seen in so many different lights, and it means something different to every single employee. And I think it's really important to initially understand your workforce and understand what they truly want, because of course we can sit here as experts in our field and people that are really passionate in the space and talk about what we're seeing, but super important to listen to the employees. And we've always found that our employees really want that flexibility when it comes to well-being. So we offer things like a wellness reimbursement that allows the employee to choose what they spend it on. What does well-being look like for them? Does it mean, going to a spa or a yoga class? It might mean gardening and buying some new gardening tools or a surfboard. It can look different to every single person, even doing a course and working on their, professional or personal development. So I think it's really key to be listening. And by listening, we'll really understand, what does well-being truly mean and what do our people want?
Yeah, great. I think with some organisations, that starting point is, what do people want? So how do you figure that out? At say Wisr, is there a specific approach that's been taken there to kind of discover or to help design it for the employees? Is there a way that you ask, or how do you find that out?
Yeah, absolutely. Surveys are a great start. So surveying your employees, whether that's on an annual basis or incorporating it into your engagement surveys, to really understand what well-being initiatives are working really well. You can do that by monitoring participation as well. You've got different probably connection initiatives, maybe some physical well-being, some digital tools that you've implemented. So you can take a look, of course, at the adoption and participation. But I think it's great to send out a survey or talk to people. I send my team out, just to go, if we've got a topic or something in mind and we're curious, how's it working and how are people responding to it? We go and talk to people. We pull up Slack if people are at home and working hybrid. We walk around the office, and we just ask people, is this landing? Have you used it? Have you tried it? If not, why not?
Yeah, I love it. I love that you've just said, just ask people, because, I think sometimes we get a little bit caught up in our technology sometimes, or also those systems like those pulse surveys. They're great, but ask people, talk to people. It's a great simple thing, and you only know sometimes if you ask. Sometimes we get a little bit obsessed with the engagement figures and looking at the data for employee well-being, but the impact of just connecting with people is so important. And I think probably one thing that's obvious that's changed is that shift to hybrid working now. So the way work's designed for employees in most organizations now, there's an understanding that hybrid is a great approach, giving people the choice to do their best work wherever they feel like, that brings the best out of them. But for workplace wellness or well-being, for somewhere like Wisr, how does it look in a hybrid world? Is it a combination of just making sure that there's some digital remote type options as well as those on-site options? Is a probably a bad term there, but
yeah, no, it definitely is. I think, having both types of initiatives going, things that will suit people who might be predominantly at home or are working remotely somewhere in Australia. And then you've got your people still that are coming into the office and into our space. So how are we catering for well-being there? I think having lots of options available is really, really key. And just trying to, what my team does, we try to put ourselves, in the shoes of the employee. So we take a look at, we kind of build up personas. We've got someone who's hybrid, who might be working at home full time. We've got hybrid coming in the office and working from home, someone 100% remote, someone in the office every day. And how are we, building out different initiatives for each of those paths? And then how are we connecting with those employees to find out what's working? So I think it is really key to be diverse, to still be offering options within the office space, but also thinking about what is different for our hybrid people, how well-being has changed, right? With all of this, there's been, of course, a lot of initiatives and benefits around flexibility, but also making sure that we're battling burnout, because of course things looked a lot different when people went home and maybe they didn't have those boundaries. So really building out initiatives for, the type of work people are doing, the ways that they're working, and making sure that we're, kind of battling, burnout and those types of things.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. And I think for a lot of people that I've been speaking with that are working from home and the workplace, they went through the pandemic as such, and they were working from home all of that time, and they really struggled with defining those work and home boundaries. So I feel like for some people that's still a bit of a challenge. With some of the initiatives that are running now, maybe at Wisr, for example, you mentioned burnout, how do you really go about, I suppose, bringing something to life that's all around burnout that suits that hybrid person or that persona that you mentioned?
Yeah, I think, look, it's a lot about keeping it at the top of the conversation. So top of conversation with employees as well as with leaders. And, any work that we can do from, again, surveying perspective or talking to people or, finding other insights or noticing trends that can, draw out the data that's showing people might be burnt out or people might be coming, to a sticky edge is really, really key. And kind of, there's an approach, that we take of just education. What does burnout look and feel like? People may not have experienced it in the past. And, doing different things like lunch and learns where we can incorporate, tactics to battle that burnout, but always keeping it, top of mind with leaders. So during leadership meetings, during communications that we send our leadership team, just keeping it top of mind and top of conversation, I think is really key.
Yeah, and I think as well for some workplaces, it's kind of it is that feeling now that we're returning to that previous pace that we would have lived by back 2 years ago. And for a lot of people, that feels kind of intense again. So for leaders, it's quite important, obviously, to still be across this, because there's still a little bit of a hangover from the last couple of years, I think, for some people. With the leaders, you mentioned the leaders there. I might just ask you a question on that, because I find that to be that's a really interesting point on how you bring leaders into it. Is there a way at Wisr or an opinion that you have on, I guess, training leaders to ensure that they have that kind of common understanding around the wellness insights of the organization, but also how to support their team? Is there a bit of a tactic or a thought on that?
Yeah, I think it's an ongoing journey. So I think you need to understand your leadership team, understand your people, and understand, the touch points and where you can bring it in to be really effective. So, understanding if you have different opportunities in front of your leadership team, town halls where you're in front of the whole organization. And yeah, I think it's always a tough one, and it's going to look different, organization to organization, and dependent on what types of initiatives you roll out, whether you're rolling out mandatory mental health training, or you're just trying to feed your leaders tips and tricks that they can use on one-on-ones. It is about being creative, and much like anything else, like we talk about hybrid, having different paths and different kind of avenues that might touch different people and different leaders. So yeah, we give sort of templates. All right, here's some wellness questions you can ask in your one-on-one this week. Here's a new lunch and learn or a podcast that we've just shared, to the internal people hub, things like that. So they have lots of different tools in their toolbox that, would suit their different people.
Yeah, that's great. For leaders, that's a really hard one, isn't it? And I think from a employee experience perspective, it is about just providing a lot of options, isn't it? Because what suits one person, or one of the you said earlier how you've created a few personas. I really love that, because I can immediately think of the person that's still coming into the office, and I kind of can think how old they might be and what's going on in their life to make them want to keep coming in. So kind of having an approach for all of those 3 or 4 personas is really clever. Kate, do you think I guess the workforce is going to get is it going to get young? It's going to get younger, isn't it? So there's going to be more Gen Zers in the cohort of each workplace. I think the stats are like by 2030, 75% of the workforce will be Gen Zers, which is huge. And obviously their needs are kind of quite unique or different, and their expectations are, a lot different to how things were being done 10 years ago. I'm wondering, from your perspective, what are some of the more popular sort of initiatives that you find those Gen Zers will like or get involved in or get highly engaged in?
Yeah, look, I think they're definitely looking for connection. So even in this hybrid world, I think that is, something that we've all put a lot of focus on, pre-pandemic, during pandemic, and of course post-pandemic, in this new world of work. They do want to be connected. So no matter where they're working and where they're coming into or not, want to be connected with their coworkers. And they're also really, really big on development. So thinking about well-being in the context of development, learning, and growth is huge for them. We implemented a platform called Udemy for Business that has 6,000 different courses that all of our people get from day one, get a license, can take any type of course that they'd like. And you see a really, really big uptake, I think, in that Gen Z group. They're really, and lots of the conversations that we have from recruitment and beyond, it is really around, growth and learning. So really key for them.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think for those types, or that persona or that age group, it kind of makes sense. I did see a group of younger corporate, they looked newish to the corporate workforce, if you like, in the CBD the other day, and they were walking as a group. And I was thinking, I wonder, as a new graduate young person, what is your, you come into work, and How does it look now? Imagine, you come in as a crew. It used to be that you would connect together, have a million coffees together and chat and talk a lot. And you have your boss there as well, maybe, or your seniors. It'd be weird now because you'd have like maybe your superior or your boss working from home with juggling kids, and then you're coming in to try and get that experience. So by bringing in the learning and development section, that sounds like that's a really like kind of a unique but also obvious way of continuing to engage those Gen Zers.
Yeah, I think you have to be really intentional with connection too. Much like you're saying, those people are coming in and they do crave that, connection and experience. So, how can leaders think about being intentional with making sure that those people are connecting throughout the organization and setting up different meetings and, helping to facilitate even like virtual coffee chats and things like that. And we have a great office and vibe manager that thinks of those types of initiatives, but really put it on our leaders too, to when you have a new person, think about all of the things that might be missing from what they used to have, and how can we actually create that in the hybrid work world.
Yeah. That you've said creative a few times now, Kate. So I gather like in your world at the moment and over the next little while, it's going to be a continual creative process of engaging employees and making sure that the workplace that you're working in is attractive to them, to retain them. It's probably a good segue actually into the hiring and the recruitment side of things. I feel like this is getting talked about a little bit, but maybe not a lot in terms of how wellbeing facilitates recruitment, because a point of difference for a business right now could be simply, and I mentioned the AFR Best Places to Work awards earlier. That's a recent announcement. I think it was only a couple of days ago that came out for Wisr for number 2 in the category. It's kind of interesting now, like if you're advertising a role, it's not like people are lining up just because you've advertised. There's so much more to it. It's kind of like, is this a 4-day week thing? Is there well-being at front and center? Or if you're a parent, do I have flexibility to choose, where I work and all that kind of thing? So probably a question for you, Kate, is maybe how do you think you can integrate or best integrate employee wellbeing initiatives from the recruitment process, like as a starting point? Because that could be a really great start for an employer to be promoting themselves as a leader in employee wellbeing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we talk about well-being, we certainly talk about it from those initial recruitment conversations. If you look at our job adverts, we put a lot in there around benefits, around wellness, around, of course, that wonderful second place and best places to work, so that people out there in the market can get an understanding of all of the great initiatives that we're doing. And yeah, I think it's really key for, recruitment teams to really be across all of the kind of non-monetary benefits, including well-being, including growth and development that an organization is doing, and really come out strong, with their employer value proposition and talking to candidates in the market about all of these different types of benefits and why the organization is so much different to what other people are doing out there. It is super key to be communicating that from the start. And it's great too, because it sets up that expectation for when the person starts, and then they have this great induction experience. And, one of our induction classes is all around belonging and benefits and blooming at the organization. So, they have that front and center from the induction experience, and that follows through their journey. So I think it's really key to, have your recruitment teams and people that are out there talking to the candidates in the market really know what's going on at the organization, and really be a cheerleader for those different types of benefits and well-being initiatives.
Yeah. And I've chatted with some friends recently who are in the job market, and the view they had they were tossing up between a few potential offers, and the person that I'm referring to, I won't mention their name, but they're a parent, and their priority right now is actually having more time at home with their kids. And so, there was The story goes that there was one offer, money was great, but the expectation to be in the office was almost full time. So, about 4 days a week. And the other one that the person went with in the end was so much more flexible. And also what was obvious with how it was explained to me was there is an emphasis specifically on parents and parental leave and that kind of thing, which probably triggered the brain for future family planning. So it's kind of interesting with how employers can present themselves to attract different people, because it's certainly a market that's at the moment anyway, where there's lots of jobs and maybe not as many candidates as everyone wants.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we actually just had someone new start on our recruitment team, and I was chatting her through our EVP and the different benefits at Wisr. And the first thing I said was listen to the candidate and listen to what they're after, because we have something for everyone, and you can really connect that. Much like you're saying, if you've got a parent out there, then let's talk about parental leave and benefits with flexibility and building your own schedule. And if you've got one of those Gen Zs, and how do we talk about learning and growth and supercharging your career. So there really, is something to connect with everyone, and we really need to listen to the candidates and understand what they're after. And I think make a pretty compelling story.
Yeah, it sounds like Wise has put in a lot of thought into the employee journey from start to finish. And I'll keep talking about recruitment here, but to be able to do that from that really, wow, I want to work here. That's one thing. And that's part of the recruiting process, and the person comes in and they start. What sort of infrastructure do you bring in to implement, I guess, that ongoing reference back to employee wellbeing in somewhere like Wisr, to ensure that you've got that competitive edge and you're retaining the employees from the start?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot that you can put in place, and I like that you use the word infrastructure. It is about building, a foundation. So a foundation around, what you believe employee well-being is, and then that starts to resonate out to what initiatives you run every quarter. And in the HR space, there are so many different things that we own. There's so much that can be done that can help engage employees along the way. And much like we're saying, it looks different to everyone, and it is important to focus on all of them throughout the employee journey. And we do help leverage leaders too. So again, making sure they're aware of all of the tools and resources that they have. So whatever we're communicating, whatever we're delivering to employees along the journey, they're also backing that up, or they're the ones, when we're talking about the recruiter listening to candidates and talking about benefits that apply to them, we're also talking to the leaders. Then once your employee comes on board, make sure you're listening and you're understanding their needs, so that you can help tailor that experience to them specifically.
Yeah. Well, that's a amazing answer, and it sounds like it just integrates all the way through. It's probably why you've got that number 2 best places to work in your sector there. Yeah, it's a great acknowledgement, isn't it? I wonder as well, there, Kate, when you said kind of there's a lot of things around wellbeing in HR. It kind of, what I've seen with organisations is that what they try and do is they come up with their own version of employee wellbeing. So it's like that one big idea that they come up with, and then that's almost like the IP of the organisation to then present to the market or the candidates. So is that what you mean by, your, like, does Wisr have its own employee wellbeing kind of summary, if you like, of what is employee wellbeing, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So we have, very clearly stated, these are the pillars of well-being that we want to talk about. So mental fitness, physical well-being, financial strength, socially connected and being authentically yourself. And then initiatives can drive off of that. And kind of the one big one we do, through those best places to work submission out to the candidate markets, we talk a lot about that $500 well-being reimbursement, mostly because that does provide so much flexibility. We get so many positive quotes and stories from employees, and it's one of the things I absolutely love looking at is what people are submitting for those reimbursements, and it tells such a wonderful story of how unique people are and how different they perceive well-being. And I think then it opens up our minds as professionals to know that it's something unique and different to everyone, and really, really special and important.
Yeah, and that clear concept, that sounds really great, and it sounds like all those initiatives fit around those employee engagement ideas and initiatives. They fit around those 4 or 5 concepts. It's quite interesting, though, you say, Kate, with what individuals think about their own well-being. Like for some people, it could just be it's not a yoga class. It could be reading a book, or it could be some time with their partner or something, something kind of quite, I guess, simple. It's a really great idea to put the control in the employee's hand rather than pushing stuff at them, which is kind of, employee well-being 2.0 is not pushing really anymore, isn't it?
Yeah. And we still provide different options, and we're out there looking for interesting companies to partner with, or gyms, or different brands. And I think that that's always important, because we have that as part of our role, and we have that time to go kind of find interesting things and offer them up. But to give a lot of freedom and flexibility to the employee is really key.
Yeah. Kate, I've just got one more kind of idea or thought that I'd like to run by you, and it's kind of that idea of with employee well-being and presenting. So we're still talking about recruitment here. So presenting, I guess, remuneration packages or salary or employment packages. I wonder if there's a unique way that you can package wellness initiatives or programs or wellness within that. Just to present as a unique employer. Is there any recommendations there that you might have from your expertise at Wisr?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. We have taken a look at and are starting to do more of an analysis around, when we talk to employees about their package, also kind of packaging up what the benefits look like, and putting dollar figures to that too, to make that more tangible. I do think candidates out there in the market, they're not necessarily looking for that dollar figure. They're more looking at, trying to understand, I think, the values of the organization by asking more about these initiatives and understanding if wellness is on, a front and center of the conversation. But we certainly have, and are doing more work into how can we show it as, total compensation, so that people, do know that it is a big investment, from a monetary perspective too. And they're absolutely, reaping the benefits and enjoying those as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. I don't think anyone's 100% solved that one, but it makes sense to tally up and show the value of a program, because I guess for the example I gave before with my friend who's tossing up between a really high-paying role, but with that came a lot of stress and not much focus on well-being, versus the one that was well-being focused and still good pay, but not where they normally would be, but they were wanting more the flexibility, the intangibles of that. The one that was actually the role that was taken, the value of those of said employee benefits is actually probably maybe tallying up closer to that job offer number one. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting idea, and it's probably where things will head, isn't it? Is maybe just that evolution of wellbeing initiatives.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. And all of those, non-monetary perks and, flex and parental leave, so many different exciting things I think that will happen, and so much to learn, I think, over this kind of next period of evolution.
Yeah, it's quite an exciting time because it's all new and it's evolving. There was something that I read the other day, which was I think it was in the UK, and it was overseas, and they actually were offering people a 20% reduction in pay if they want to work from home. So it's kind of I didn't read that as a positive thing. I thought they should just get paid the same if they're working from home. But it's kind of this. You can see these different headlines and stories. It shows you that we're really at the infancy stage of this whole hybrid thing, but also the benefits and the employee initiative side of it as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think we are.
Yeah. Kate, thanks so much for your time today. It's really nice to hear from you and learn a bit more about Wisr as well. And based on some of the stuff you were saying, it really shows why Wisr is obviously a great place to work, and your team have obviously done a great job in making sure that employee experience is fantastic. So thanks so much for joining me on the show, and look forward to connecting with you again.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. It's been great.